All right. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Jamie Mira with American Farmland Trust, and we are talking farming in a pandemic today with Michael Protas, the owner of One Acre Farm in Maryland, and Charlotte Henderson, membership manager at One Acre Farm. Thank you so much for joining me today, Michael and Charlotte.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and One Acre Farm.
So the farm started, I volunteered on a farm about 20 years ago outside of State College, Pennsylvania, when I was in school for film, actually. And I happened to volunteer on a small scale CSA farm similar to the one I started now. But at the time, it was just something I wanted to do on a Friday when I didn't have class. So I was just looking for an activity to do during my college years without Friday classes. And so I happened to just stumble upon a small scale farm. And long story short, there's plenty of details in between there. But from 1999 to now, I've kind of started my own business about 12 years ago. And so now that gets us up to today where we have a 150 member CSA and some other avenues of selling our produce.
And how did I get started? I studied ecology in college, and I dabbled in environmental education, and I always wanted to work outside. So I found myself in farming. I kind of got burnt out with like nonprofit life, unfortunately. And yes, no offense.
It is a nonprofit, right?
I know.
Okay. Yeah.
And you know, it's really, really taxing and difficult. And so I was looking for a different way to be working outside, and farming was always in the back of my mind. It's in my family. So I decided to try it out, and I've been doing it for over 4 years now. So still infant stages, but that's me.
Wonderful. So how has the coronavirus crisis impacted your farming?
Well, impacted our farming, I would say not at all. We're not changing anything the way we actually conduct farming operations on the farm. So for example, well, that's not true because of like cleaning around, like some of the things we're supposed to be doing like in terms of clean and being more cleanly with our tables and our wiping down, things like that. But if we're talking about strictly farming, I would say the outside planting vegetables, nothing has changed at the moment. That now in our business model, it's changed. I would not say dramatically, and Charlie can answer more of that better than I can. But I would say we're exploring alternative ways of selling and exploring ways to extend our season and provide produce to our CSA customers, and not just produce, foodstuffs, I guess, for a longer period of time, because I know now more than ever our CSA customers are really interested in supporting a local farm and getting more of their food from a trusted source. So we're trying to find ways to kind of fulfill that need, whatever that was the right word, fulfill that need of providing food from area farms to kind of extend our season. So that's kind of in the business sense, we can get into that, but that's kind of what's shifted in my mind. In the farming sense, I don't think anything.
Well, other than like our practices with our labor, that's the biggest thing. Like there's constant hand washing, masks, and we usually transplant by sitting on a tractor, and we're sitting next to each other on an implement behind the tractor. And because that is too close, before when we didn't have masks, we had to do hand transplanting. So it has slowed down the transplanting a little bit more, but now we have masks, and so hopefully we can move forward.
And we're not wearing masks right now. We're sitting too close to each other.
I know, it's terrible.
So we're going to get in trouble already, I know. So the farm police are going to come and arrest us.
Well, I hope not.
Yeah.
So, challenges can sometimes bring new opportunities. Are there any new opportunities that you're pursuing now that maybe you weren't last year or in previous years?
So I would say the bulk. So for years, I have been, not quietly, but like trying to figure out a way for all of us, the small farms and the bigger farms in this area, so any farm in this area, to work together more cooperatively. And it hasn't always been, it's just been an idea that I wanted to kind of pursue. And kind of we've had plenty of meetings with all area farmers about this over the winter months, but nothing really ever came to fruition. Now I've kind of taken the bull by the horns a little, or we've been taking the bull by the horns a little bit, because now we're just saying in our MoCo made boxes. So we're in Montgomery County, Maryland. So the Food Council, our Montgomery County Food Council has this program called MoCo Made. And so we're kind of stealing that term by saying we're going to be working with all the area farms to provide at the moment, it's just a pilot. So we're only doing 35 shares. So yesterday we promoted our second MoCo Made box. So by working with all area farmers, we're trying to fulfill a $60 box of produce and other goods, dressing from an area salad dressing maker, soap from an area lavender soap maker. So we're making a box like that. So I guess my point is this has kind of sped that process up because I've been planning for years of how to make a way to work together more cooperatively. But this kind of forced us to just take the bull by the horns and just start making a box, see if the interest is there. And so we're on week 2 of trying to make this box. And what do you have to add to that?
It's sold out.
Oh, it's sold out, yeah.
Yeah, so it did sell out really quickly, which was very encouraging. But also, it's kind of interesting because just a couple months ago, we met with one of our farmer friends to talk about a co-op and the idea of a co-op. And we came away from the meeting just thinking there really isn't any interest in forming a co-op. Like farms aren't really interested in joining together or partnering together. And now because of this, because markets are not as vibrant as they once were and restaurants are shutting down or closed, they really need this sort of outlet. And even though it's a pretty small project, but we're really encouraged that this could possibly grow because there are so many people really interested in it.
And I think the other thing that's funny, and this might come across bad, so if it does, you can certainly edit this out. Please edit this out if it's no good. So what I have thought was a little bit something is, so I've always been a CSA farm. So I've only sold, for the majority of my business career, I've only sold to families. And that is not necessarily the most lucrative way to run a business because restaurants sometimes will pay a better price or more consistent. It's harder to deal with individual families as it is to deal with restaurants sometimes, in some cases, not all the time, of course. And some people have decided they started farming and then they realize, hey, it's much more lucrative to do get out of the food production, go somewhere else. And what all those farms are learning out right now is maybe sticking with the CSA vegetable growing, even though it was not as profitable, is really now the only one that everybody wants to now turn back to. So it's kind of one of those dynamic shifts where in farming, and probably in anything in life, there always is like the next greatest thing. So for farmers, hemp. Last year, hemp was through the roof. Everybody wanted to grow hemp. And people would say, hey, can I rent your land to grow hemp? And I work with a consultant, so it's not my idea. But her point was, don't chase the fads, because if you chase the fads, they always go up and down, up and down, up and down. If you just stay with who you are, you're a CSA farmer, and just plug along, do that, maybe you will, at the end, whatever the correct expression or cliche would be. So it's just interesting that we noticed a lot of farms who kind of strayed away from being a CSA farm or strayed away from selling vegetables because it wasn't as profitable. We stuck with it, and it's kind of seeming at the moment to be paying off a little bit better than other fad type of businesses.
Well, yeah, and also.
Is that no good, by the way?
I don't know. It's
okay.
It's interesting.
Okay.
It's your opinion.
Yeah.
But also, like I've been to a couple conferences over the past year, and everyone's saying, "Oh, the CSA trend is downward turning."
And it's true. That's true.
And it has been true, but now
right.
There's a huge uptick in it because people want the security of local farms, because it's a lot harder to get fresh local produce in grocery stores at this time.
Right. That's true.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you want people to know about the challenges you face as small farmers and how they can help?
Well, I'll answer the first part first, well, obviously, but I don't even want to answer the second part. But the first part, what I want people to understand is the challenge that the challenge that people need to understand is in farming, the profit margin is almost non-existent. Nobody's making a ton of money going into the small vegetable farm business. So for example, this year, before the coronavirus started, I made a pledge to my employees, or not my employees, the people that work with me, that I'm going to pay everybody 15% more. So the lowest paid person for this year before coronavirus was going to be $15 an hour. Last year they made 12. I thought 12 was too low to live in Montgomery County. Honestly, I think $15 an hour is too low, but that's the most I could do. So I said this year, everybody's getting it turned out to be roughly a 15% or so increase in pay. So what I did was I spent a lot of time writing a letter to my members saying, just so you know, nobody's getting rich on small scale vegetable farming. we're all going to have to pay more. So no matter what, this year, our share price is going up by, I think it was 15%. So if our share last year was $8.80 for a full share, and now this year is $1,010. And I made that note very public or if you go to my website, the first thing you'll see when you
I actually took it off.
Oh, well, up until Charlotte took it off, you would have said, good to know. You would have seen that this is why you're paying more this year. So there's
a note underneath our price.
Thank you. I think the point I'm trying to make before Charlotte rudely interrupted me was this. It is our duty as farmers to really, normally in business, the thing is the customer is always right. My philosophy is the customer, because I'm a customer at a lot of businesses and I'm a moron. The customer has no idea what they're talking about. It's our job as trustworthy farmers and just business owners to explain the situation to why it costs what it costs. Because of course I go to stores, I have no idea how things get here, what truck it came, who's getting paid what, if the person's making a minimum wage or a appropriate wage. I know nothing. And so I know my customers, until I teach them, know nothing too. So to assume that their customer is always right, no, the customer is clueless, and it's our job to teach them why a tomato costs $7 a pound versus $2 a pound at the store. That is our job, because otherwise the system will stay broken and farmers will still make nothing and will year after year just slog on trying to figure this whole thing out. And that's just not sustainable. And so we talk about sustainable farming all the time. That is simply not sustainable. You cannot, how many farmers do I know that started farming at the same time as me and have already gone out of business? And if we're talking about we need younger, newer farmers to pick up the slack from the older retiring farmers, you can't do it if there's absolutely zero money in it. So it's our responsibility to explain to the customer why they're clueless and why they need to learn something, and not in a negative way, in a positive way. So it's I don't know what the second part of the question was, but that's the first part answer. Charlie, you have an answer?
Yeah.
You got nothing?
I don't even remember the question.
You want to ask the question again?
Well, let me
That's a tangent.
Charlotte, let me ask you this. So Michael so eloquently described some of the challenges that you face.
Yeah.
So how?
Oh, that's right.
How can people help? What should people do?
So that's a little difficult right now, because sometimes with CSA farms you can come volunteer, you can come help out on the farm. But I think the biggest thing, and since everyone is really working from home right now, the biggest thing is sharing the word. So one of my good friends has been posting information about our farm on all these different forums that she's on in DC, and that's amazing. And that makes us feel good, because it's like, oh my God, somebody gets it, and somebody is spending that 5 minutes to do a little bit, which could be really impactful to help us. So I think it's just spreading the word and just trying to get more people on board with what we're doing here.
Good point.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty much what people can do right now.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again for your time, Michael and Charlotte, and for your really important work in keeping our communities healthy and vibrant. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.